What if I told you they're waiting for you to break first? Watching, waiting, testing you. They sit back in silence, wondering how long you can hold out before you crack, before you reach, before you beg, before you hand them all your power on a silver platter. Because the moment you do, they win, and you lose everything. This was never about love or fate. This is about control. Most people fail this test. They think if they explain themselves, if they just say the right words, if they prove how much they care, things will magically change. But that's exactly what the trap is. The moment you chase, the moment you react, the moment you let your emotions take over, you confirm what they suspected all along, that they were always in control. See, they didn't walk away to forget you. They walked away to see if you would forget yourself. If you do, if you make them the center of your world, if you let them live in your mind rent-free, if you let the silence break you, then you prove them right. You show them that you were never as strong as they thought. Most people can't handle this. They break. They send long, desperate messages. They search for closure that will never come. They replay every memory, hoping to find some hidden sign, some missed opportunity to fix things. But that's the illusion. That's the mind game. The second you play along, you lose. Because here's the brutal truth. They don't actually want you to move on. They don't want you happy. They want you stuck, a prisoner of the past, trapped between what was and what could have been. They want you to drown in what-ifs, while they walk away untouched. But you are not that person anymore. You don't break. You don't beg. You don't crumble under the weight of their absence. You take that pain and forge something stronger. You let the silence shape you, not shatter you. This is the moment where the weak fold and the strong rise. The moment where you either prove them right or prove them wrong. Will you be the one left behind, or the one who moves forward, untouchable? Because the only thing more powerful than their silence is yours. If you're done letting someone else control your emotions, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Let the world know I choose power over pain. 1. The trap. They're waiting for you to break. You think it's over, that they've moved on, that they're out there living life without a second thought about you. But that's not the truth. They're still watching, waiting, testing, not because they want you back, but because they want to know if they still have control over you. This is the psychology of power. They don't need to text. They don't need to call. They already know how you feel because they left, and now they're watching your reaction. Will you chase? Will you break? Will you desperately search for answers that don't exist? That's the real test, and most people fail. The moment you show that you're still emotionally invested, they win. That's why they post cryptic messages. That's why they suddenly start showing up online more than ever, acting as if life has never been better. It's bait, pure and simple. A mind game designed to make you spiral, to make you question yourself. Was I not enough? Did they ever love me? Are they happier without me? The second you take that bait, the moment you reach out, check in, or try to clear the air, you lose. Because now they know. They know you're still affected. They know they still have a grip on your emotions, and that gives them power. But here's the truth. They're not as happy as they pretend to be. The smile in those pictures, forced. The sudden glow-up, a performance, that new person they're spending time with, just a distraction. Because if they were truly over it, they wouldn't need to prove it to the world. They wouldn't care whether you were watching or not. Yet most people panic. They see them moving on and think, I have to do something before they forget me. That's the biggest mistake, because the harder you try to pull them back, the further they run. Sun Tzu once said, the supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. That's exactly how you win this battle. You don't fight, you don't chase, you don't fall into their trap. Let them wonder, let them overthink, let them feel your absence, Because silence isn't just the absence of words, it's the presence of power. And here's the moment they don't expect. When you don't react, when you don't reach, when you don't fold, that's when the power shifts. That's when they start questioning themselves. Did I make a mistake? Why aren't they chasing me? Was I wrong about them? And the moment they start doubting themselves, you've already won. 2. Chasing shadows. The myth of closure. You keep telling yourself that one last conversation will fix everything, one final moment of honesty that will set your heart free. You imagine they'll sit down, look you in the eye, and reveal the perfect explanation for walking away. But here's the cold reality. Closure doesn't come from them. No matter how carefully they piece together the story, no matter how sincere their words may sound, none of it will truly soothe the ache inside you. Closure is an inside job, a mirror you hold to your own reflection, not a key they hand over for you to unlock your peace. You might wonder, did they leave because they needed someone else? Did I do something wrong? The human mind craves tidy conclusions. It wants an ending where every question is answered. Yet life rarely grants that kind of clarity, especially from those who've already drifted beyond your reach. Perhaps they detached long before you realized what was happening. People often make internal decisions and process those feelings in secret. By the time they walk out the door, they've had the emotional head start you never saw coming. And still, you stand among the rubble of what once felt like security, trying to piece together the fragments of meaning. A final heart-to-heart becomes an obsession. If they'd only explain every detail, you could somehow stitch your world back together. But even if they did, even if you got a perfect rundown of every thought that led them to leave, you'd face the same stark truth. They're gone. Words won't erase that reality. Clarity won't change the outcome. As Epictetus said, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. If you rely on them for closure, you hand over the power of your own healing. Picture a person frantically chasing their own shadow at dusk. The faster they run, the further the shadow dances away. That's how chasing closure looks. The more you beg for an explanation, the more you confirm their decision to leave. Instead of appearing strong or sincere, your pursuit only magnifies your desperation, validating their choice. You become the person who still seeks permission to move on, as if you're waiting for a blessing that says, "You're free now." But freedom doesn't come from outside approval. It comes from you deciding that your past no longer controls your present. At this point, you might ask, isn't it reasonable to want answers? Of course it is, but reason and reality are two different beasts. You can stand on the shore demanding the ocean explain each wave, or you can step back and accept the tide for what it is, unpredictable, uncontrollable, but ultimately indifferent to your questions. That's what real Stoicism looks like, embracing the unknown, finding peace in uncertainty, and not needing another person to define your emotional boundaries. A strange thing happens when you stop chasing answers that don't exist. You start to reclaim your power. Your silence speaks volumes, and that silence can be more unsettling to them than any angry text or heartfelt plea. Suddenly they wonder why you're not looking for a resolution. They question whether they made the right call. Doubt creeps in. And know that doubt isn't your final goal. This isn't about playing games. It's about understanding that true closure is a myth. If you expect it to come from someone else, your peace isn't a door only they can open. It's a fortress you build from the inside out. When you finally accept this, you realize you never needed their explanation in the first place. You no longer beg for clarity or yearn for the perfect goodbye. You find the strength to let go, not because you received a grand revelation, but because you gave yourself permission to move forward. And that's when the grip of the past loosens, no longer keeping you tied to a story that's already ended. 3. silent thunder. Mastering emotional control. They expect you to crumble the moment they walk away. They leave just enough space for you to wonder if there's still a chance, dangling the possibility like a shiny lure in the water. They count on you reaching out, texting, calling, or doing anything to bridge that aching gap. Because if you do, they keep all the control. The hardest part for most people is realizing that silence isn't apathy. It's strategy, it's strength, and it's the one move they never see coming. In a world where everyone scrambles to fill the void with words, silence stands out like thunder on a clear day. It doesn't matter if they're posting on social media, dropping hints, or accidentally showing up in places you frequent. Those are all moves in a game designed to make you react. When you don't, you unleash an entirely different kind of power. Think of it like a chess match. Every time you text first or call to find out what went wrong, it's like sacrificing one of your most valuable pieces. You're playing on their board, by their rules. But when you fold your arms, lean back, and say nothing, you flip the script. They're forced to question every assumption they made. Why aren't they reaching out? Did I misjudge them? Have they really moved on so easily? Suddenly, you're no longer the open book they had pegged you for. Some might ask, but won't they forget about me if I stay silent? That question reveals how deeply we crave validation. Silence doesn't make people forget. Ironically, it can make them remember you even more. Human nature is drawn to mystery. Just like a novel that ends on a cliffhanger, the lack of a neat resolution often leaves a more lasting impact than if you spelled everything out. In fact, silence plants the seeds of doubt in their mind, making them reconsider whether they had you all figured out. It's not about playing games. This is about preserving your dignity and protecting your emotional well-being. You might also wonder, isn't silence a sign of weakness or cowardice? The truth is, it's far easier to react impulsively. It's far easier to vent, to beg for answers, to chase people who are already halfway out the door. Silence, on the other hand, demands self-control. It demands that you handle your feelings internally without looking for an immediate fix. Marcus Aurelius famously wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Silence is the embodiment of that principle. You can't change what they do, but you can control what you do. And by choosing not to respond, you're demonstrating that you're the master of your own emotions rather than a puppet dangling on their string. Another question might pop into your mind. What if they never come back? What if my silence pushes them away forever? The more pressing question is, why do you want someone to come back if they've already shown you a willingness to walk away? If they're leaving the door ajar just to see if you'll chase, then their motives hinge on power, not genuine connection. If they do come back solely because you went silent, that might reveal more about their need for control than any real desire to build a healthy relationship. And if they don't come back, that's an answer in itself. It means they were never truly invested in you as a person, only in the attention or emotional fuel you provided. Picture your emotions like a fortress. Every time you plead for an explanation or send a desperate message, you chip away at those walls, leaving yourself open to whatever disappointment or confusion they fling your way. Silence, however, is like reinforcing that fortress with steel. It signals that you're not easily swayed by someone else's behavior. It says you have enough self-respect to handle your own pain without requiring their permission to move on. While they post photos to spark jealousy or drop cryptic quotes meant to lure you out of hiding, you're busy fortifying your mind. They're left with questions and doubts, while you're steadily regaining confidence behind the walls of your own composure. Yet it's important to remember that silence isn't supposed to be a weapon of passive aggression. It's meant to be a tool for self-preservation. The moment you use silence merely to manipulate, you're sliding into the very game you claim to reject. True silence is about releasing the need for external validation. It's about understanding that no explanation from them will mend what's broken inside you. Healing isn't a conversation, it's a decision to accept what has happened, learn from it, and not let it dictate the rest of your life. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Words, especially unspoken ones, have a powerful grip on the imagination. When you choose quiet, you're taking a step back from that mental tug-of-war. It's not an act of indifference, but an act of self-care. By refusing to engage, you allow yourself the space to focus on what really matters: your personal growth, your goals, your passions. You stop seeking closure in their actions and find it instead in your own resolve to move forward. Over time, this creates an undeniable shift. They might try new tactics, more provocative posts, more pointed messages through mutual friends, but if you remain steadfast, you'll watch the balance of power tilt in your favor. Ironically, by the time they realize they no longer have a hold on you, you may find you've already outgrown the need to respond. Their absence will have shaped a stronger version of you, someone who doesn't fear the vacuum of silence, but embraces it as a crucible for transformation. That's the real victory, not whether they come back, but whether you become the kind of person who no longer needs them. Silence is a choice, but more than that, it's a declaration. You will not be controlled by someone else's departure. You'll stand tall in the midst of the storm, letting the thunder speak for you. And in the end, you'll realize you never needed anyone else's permission to find your own peace. 4. Phoenix Rising. The Stoic rebuild. They expect you to sink into the darkness. They assume you'll replay the past, sifting through every conversation, every silent goodbye, hoping for a return that never comes. They believe you'll waste your days scrolling through old photos, stuck in regret and self-doubt. They want you so tangled in your own thoughts that you forget to live. But that's precisely where you prove them wrong. Instead of crumbling, you rebuild. Instead of waiting, you evolve. You transform all that pain into something fierce and unstoppable, a rebirth that even you might not recognize at first. Some might ask, what if I'm not strong enough? What if I can't move on? But consider the old saying, smooth seas do not make skillful sailors. Growth doesn't happen when you're comfortable. It's forged in the flames of adversity. When everything's easy, you coast. But when the rug is pulled from beneath you, you're forced to adapt or drown. This is your moment to choose. Will you remain stuck in a version of yourself shaped by someone else, or will you become something greater? It might feel unnatural to focus on yourself right now. Anger and sadness can pull you toward dark corners, filling your mind with why and what if. Yet even darkness can be harnessed. Think of a blacksmith's forge. You can't shape steel without heat, and you can't grow stronger without pressure. Each memory that haunts you can serve as raw fuel for change. Instead of fixating on the heartbreak, let that energy propel you forward. Take it to the gym. Let it push you to run further or lift heavier than you ever have. Use it as motivation to educate yourself. Pick up that book you've been meaning to read, or learn a skill you've always set aside. Harness the fire inside you and mold it into something powerful. Some might wonder, but aren't I just distracting myself? Don't I need closure or answers to truly heal? The Stoics believe the only control you have is over your own mind and actions. You cannot force someone else to explain themselves, nor can you make them regret their choices. Clarity doesn't come from another person's lips. It comes from accepting that you can't rewrite the past and focusing on what lies within your power, your present decisions. Epictetus reminds us, It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. If you wait around for them to define your next move, you remain a puppet in someone else's story. By deciding that you're done waiting, you reclaim the pen and begin writing your own new chapter. Maybe you worry, will they think I never cared? Will they see my silence as a sign of defeat? Silence is often misunderstood. It's not always a white flag. Sometimes it's a clear signal that you value your own growth more than their approval. When you focus on rebuilding, you're not erasing what happened. You're choosing to carry on without letting someone else's absence devour your spirit. In truth, when they notice you're not broken, when they hear you're out exploring the world, improving yourself, or finding new passions, they might start to question everything they presumed about you. Were they the ones holding you back? Did they underestimate your potential? But by then, those doubts won't matter to you because you'll be busy living life on your terms, no longer defined by someone else's presence or departure. Reinvention doesn't happen overnight. It's a daily decision, a steady commitment to become a better version of yourself. You might stumble along the way. Old memories could resurface when you least expect them, tugging at the emotional wounds you thought had healed. That's normal. Healing isn't linear. It's a path that can twist and turn. The difference is that each time you stumble now, you have the strength to get back up on your own. You're no longer seeking someone else's hand to pull you out of the darkness. You've learned to rely on yourself, and that self-reliance is the cornerstone of growth. People talk about the phoenix as a symbol of rebirth for a reason. It's consumed by flames only to emerge stronger and more radiant than before. Think of each day as a small phoenix moment. Yes, you might feel the burn of loss or the sting of regret, but by tomorrow, you'll have another chance to rise. Over time, these small resurrections add up, sculpting you into a person so solid in self-worth and direction that you look back and hardly recognize the one who used to stay awake at night, overthinking and waiting for a text. You may ask, do I really need to become someone unrecognizable? Perhaps that's an exaggeration, but real growth often makes you unrecognizable, at least to the people who never expected you to evolve. Where once you might have been anxious or clingy, you now stand calm and self-assured. Where you used to need constant validation, you now trust your own path. This change can unsettle those who once held power over your emotions. Now they're on the outside looking in, witnessing your transformation without a ticket back into your life. That's not revenge, it's the natural consequence of turning pain into progress. In the end, who really wins? The person who stays stuck forever, revisiting the past, searching for traces of what might have been, or the person who uses heartbreak as a catalyst to become a stronger, wiser, and more resilient individual. Stoicism doesn't promise a life without pain. It promises a life in which pain is not wasted. Every setback contains the seeds of a comeback if you're willing to plant and nurture them. So choose to evolve. Let them see you rise, not because you want to make them regret leaving, but because you refuse to betray yourself by staying stagnant. Turn your heartbreak into a stepping stone rather than a tombstone. This is your wake-up call, your turning point, your time to become something more than you were yesterday. They walked away expecting to find you broken, but instead they'll discover a person who used the flames of abandonment to forge an unbreakable spirit. The best part is, in that process of rebuilding, you'll find that your worth was never dependent on their presence in the first place. You've had it inside you all along. Now you're simply choosing to live like you believe it. 5. Playing it cool. The reverse psychology of detachment. You might be surprised to learn that the greatest paradox in attraction is that the less you care, the more they notice. When you genuinely detach, when you truly stop fretting over every little detail, That's when they start paying attention. It's not about playing games. It's about shifting the balance of power. Many fall into the trap of overinvestment. They believe that if they show just how much they care, if they prove the depth of their feelings with grand gestures and endless attention, the other will eventually come around. But neediness and desperation are like magnets for repulsion. They push them further away instead of drawing them in. Imagine a candle burning at both ends. The more fuel you give, the faster it burns out, leaving nothing but smoke and a faint lingering scent. That's exactly how overinvestment works. The moment you stop chasing and let things be, you flip the script. Your indifference transforms into an enigmatic aura. Your silence speaks louder than any desperate plea could. "I'm not waiting around for something that isn't meant to be" becomes your silent mantra. A declaration that says you value yourself above the need for constant validation. At this point, you might ask yourself, but what if they think I don't care? What if my detachment makes me seem uncaring? The answer lies in understanding that true detachment is not indifference to the other's existence. It's a profound respect for your own worth. It's about saying, my happiness isn't dictated by your presence or absence. As Oscar Wilde once noted, self-love is the foundation of all love. When you focus on your own growth, you build a life so full and engaging that the vacuum left by their absence becomes a part of your past, a mere stepping stone rather than a stumbling block. Consider a well-tuned orchestra. Each instrument plays its part, but the beauty of the symphony comes from the balance and harmony of every note. When you let go of the need to control every interaction, you allow your life melody to play on its own. Your detachment is not a cold withdrawal. It's a graceful retreat into your own passions and pursuits. Instead of being constantly tethered to someone who is not fully present, you become a free spirit, moving to the rhythm of your own drum. Some may wonder, isn't detachment just a mask for insecurity? How can being distant really attract anyone? The truth is, when you truly let go, you remove the power of need from the equation. You no longer rely on another person to complete your happiness. Instead, you stand firmly in your own power. Your detachment becomes magnetic, drawing others not because you're unreachable, but because you radiate self-assurance and contentment. They start to question what they thought they knew. Why is it that you're not chasing, not reacting? Did you find something they lost sight of? And in that moment of doubt, the power shifts. The art of detachment is like a skilled magician's trick. It's all about misdirection. While they're busy trying to figure out what went wrong, you're busy building yourself up. Your silence creates mystery. Your absence makes them wonder if they once truly had something worth holding on to. When you focus solely on your own growth, you transform from someone who waits in the shadows into a beacon of strength and independence. In the end, detachment isn't about losing interest. It's about reclaiming your inner power. It's about realizing that what you offer is far more valuable than the attention of someone who never truly appreciated you in the first place. By choosing to care less about their validation, you care more about yourself, and that in itself is the most attractive quality of all. 6. Vanished yet unforgotten. The power of absence. They expect you to remain in the background, to be there waiting, always available, as if your presence is a given. They assume that at any moment, if they decide to return, you'll be right there to welcome them back without hesitation. But that expectation is exactly what holds you captive. Many believe that staying visible, keeping a constant presence and lingering in their orbit is the surest way to win them back. This is a costly mistake. When you're always present, your value is diminished. For people tend to cherish what they believe might be lost. Imagine a priceless painting displayed behind a glass case. When the case is open every moment of the day, the painting fades into the background of everyday life, its aura taken for granted. But when the case is locked and the painting is shown only rarely, each viewing becomes a treasured moment, a rare experience that heightens its value. Similarly, by removing yourself from their daily view, you create a space that can only be filled by genuine longing. At first, they might act indifferent. They might convince themselves they never really noticed your absence. Yet over time, that silence becomes a persistent echo in their mind. They begin to wonder, why isn't there a message? Why is there no familiar gesture or comforting presence? The simple truth is, your disappearance forces them to confront the void that you once filled, a void that can only remind them of what they have lost. Questions may arise. Did I miscalculate? Was I too confident that you'd always be around? Their internal dialogue turns into a cacophony of doubt and regret. They might start comparing every fleeting moment or encounter with you in their memory, wondering if someone new could ever replace the warmth and stability you once provided. Every time they see a familiar place or hear a familiar song, they're hit with the sting of your absence, a gentle reminder that what was once theirs is no longer within reach. This is not about playing hard to get or manipulating emotions. It's about reclaiming your own worth and demonstrating that you are not someone to be taken for granted. Your absence becomes a quiet declaration that your time, energy, and presence are valuable commodities, not to be dispensed without thought. As the French philosopher Albert Camus once noted, "Don't walk behind me, I may not lead. Don't walk in front of me, I may not follow. Just walk beside me and be my friend." In this context, your choice to step away sends a clear message. You are not an accessory in someone else's life, but a vital part of your own journey. When you vanish, your life does not stop. It evolves, grows, and flourishes in ways they might never have anticipated. While you're busy building new roots, pursuing your passions, and strengthening your own foundation, they are left to grapple with a sudden void. Their curiosity peaks. They start to question if they ever truly appreciated your presence. They may find themselves scrolling through old memories, noticing details they once ignored, and feeling a pang of regret for taking your constant presence for granted. It's as if you're a rare comet streaking across the night sky. When the comet is visible, everyone marvels at its brilliance, but over time, as it disappears into the darkness, the absence becomes a subject of longing and wonder. Your departure creates a lingering question in their minds. What changed? Why is the once familiar light now missing? And the longer you remain out of sight, the stronger the impression becomes, like a landmark that is remembered only when it's gone. In the end, this isn't about retribution or orchestrating a dramatic comeback. It's about demonstrating self-respect and the strength to move on without clinging to what once was. True power lies in understanding that your value is not diminished by absence. Rather, it is enhanced. You become a memory too precious to be taken lightly, a force of nature whose presence is felt even when unseen. And when they finally realize what they have lost, it may be too late. You are no longer the person they assumed would always be available, but someone transformed, focused entirely on a life that does not hinge on their attention. By choosing absence, you are not only preserving your dignity, you are also inviting them to see you in a new light, one where your worth is undeniable, even from afar. You have mastered the art of being missed, and in that mastery, you create a space that compels them to acknowledge the void, making them wonder if they ever truly understood the treasure they once had. 7. Rising from ashes. Turning pain into power. Right now you feel the sting, the emptiness, and the weight of loss, the raw, searing pain of betrayal and rejection. It's as if someone who once meant everything to you has become a stranger overnight. But here lies the great divide between those who wither and those who transform. What will you do with that pain? Many let it consume them. They spiral into despair, drown their sorrows, and fill the void with distractions that only deepen the hurt. Instead of using the fire that burns inside, they allow it to forge chains that bind them to their past. Imagine a piece of metal heated until it glows red hot, then hammered into shape by a skilled artisan. That is the art of emotional alchemy. It is the process of taking the darkest parts of yourself, the betrayal, the heartache, the sense of abandonment, and transforming them into an unyielding strength. Pain is raw energy. It has the potential to break you, or it can be the very force that builds you up. The choice lies entirely in your hands. As Marcus Aurelius wisely observed, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. In this light, every setback, every piercing moment of hurt is not here to destroy you but to shape you. The obstacles in your path are the very material from which you can construct a new, stronger self. Instead of recoiling from the pain, channel it. Instead of allowing rejection to define you, let it fuel your transformation. You may ask yourself, how do I even begin to harness this pain? What if it overwhelms me? Consider the oak tree that grows mightily from a single acorn. It endures storms, harsh winds, and barren winters, yet it stands tall and resilient. So too can you transform your inner turmoil into a force that propels you forward. Every challenge you overcome, every tear shed in the darkness, can be molded into a tool for self-improvement. Picture your life as a grand forge, where every hurtful experience is but an ingredient in your personal metamorphosis. The physical rigor of exercise, the discipline of studying, or the pursuit of a passion are all means to temper and reshape that raw pain into something formidable. Your body becomes a fortress, your mind a sharpened instrument, all crafted through the relentless hammering of life's challenges. You build resilience by pushing yourself day after day, transforming what was once a wound into a wellspring of power. Questions may arise. Will I ever be free of this pain? Can I really emerge stronger from what feels like an unending storm? It's important to understand that healing is not a linear journey. There will be moments when the past claws its way back into your thoughts, threatening to undo the progress you've made. But every time you choose to rise, to focus on your own growth, you are actively rewriting your story. You are choosing to be the artisan of your destiny rather than a victim of circumstance. It's not about denying the pain or pretending it never happened. It's about using it as a catalyst for profound change. When you face the hardship head-on, you learn to see it not as a curse, but as a powerful teacher. In the same way that a phoenix is reborn from its ashes, you too can reinvent yourself, emerging stronger, more focused, and unbreakable. Your journey of transformation isn't merely about surviving, it's about thriving despite the odds. As you embark on this path, remember that the power to rebuild lies within you. Each scar is a testament to your endurance, each setback a reminder of your capacity to overcome. In time, the pain will no longer be a source of suffering, but a wellspring of strength, pride, and unyielding resilience. The person you once were is not lost. They are simply the foundation upon which you build the new you, a version of yourself that is wiser, more disciplined, and entirely self-reliant. So as you stand at this crossroads, let the flames of your past forge a future defined not by loss, but by relentless growth. Transform every ounce of heartbreak into a stepping stone toward greatness. In doing so, you not only reclaim your power, you become a living testament to the idea that true strength is born not from avoiding pain, but from rising above it.